Good Monday morning, everybody. This is Donald Leonard with RE/MAX Northwest. I'm here in Cypress, Texas, and this is your Monday morning shot of caffeine with a side of real estate. Now, this morning, I'm getting my shot of caffeine in a coffee cup that I picked up in what I consider to be one of the most beautiful places on the face of the earth, Aspen, Colorado. Recently, we stayed at a place called Twin Lakes, and from Twin Lakes, we drove to Aspen, and this is pretty much what the road looked like. Yeah, it was really crooked, it was really steep, went over a place called Independence Pass, but it was a gorgeous drive, but you probably couldn't go more than about 30 miles an hour at best. Very crooked, very steep, but boy, what a beautiful place. It really, truly is. Now, today I want to talk a little bit about appraisals and how they relate to our real estate transaction. We all know that appraisals sometimes can get in the way of a real estate transaction. We can have what a willing buyer is willing to pay and what a willing seller is willing to sell for, and we have it on paper. We have it on a contract. But that's not good enough, not as far as the lender's concerned. The lender wants somebody else, wants an outside party to tell them whether or not, if they had to take the property back, will they be able to get their money back? And so really that's what the appraisal is all about. A lot of people think that appraisers are out there to protect the buyer. That's not really true. The appraiser is out there to protect the lender. The lender wants to know, worst case scenario, if I get a buyer in this property who never makes a payment and I have to turn around and take the property back through foreclosure, can I get my money back? And that's really what the appraisal is all about. Because this whole concept of market value is kind of at best, it is a number that everybody is grasping at, because there is no such thing as true market value. Market value is different depending on who you are. Even when it comes down to buyers, what's considered to be market value for one is not going to be the same as it is for another. What one person is willing to pay for a home is not what another person is willing to pay for a home. And so our definition of market value, what a willing seller is willing to sell for and a willing buyer is willing to pay for a property, when neither is acting under duress or neither is acting under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and both are sufficiently educated and sufficiently advised, and the property's had enough time on the market to be exposed to whoever might possibly be interested in buying it, that's kind of a fleeting number. Like we said, it's not going to be exactly the same thing for each person. And so we know what a willing buyer is willing to pay based on the fact that they've put it on paper. They have a contract that says, hey, I'm willing to pay this much money. But like I said, the lender is more concerned about their ability to get their money back. Worst case scenario. Our buyer gets in there, never makes a payment, lender has to foreclose, can I get my money back? And so that's where we start running into issues, because just because a buyer is willing to pay, maybe in some cases more than list price because there's so little available or they just love the home so much that they are willing to pay more than what the list price is, that's market value to them, but not to the lender. The lender is only concerned about whether or not they can get their money back. So those are the types of things that we have to take into account. Heck, as far as that's concerned, you can get 4 or 5 appraisers to appraise the same piece of property, and they're not even going to come up with the same number. They all base their appraisals on certain principles, principle of substitution, principle of contribution, principles of increasing and decreasing return, principle of progression, principle of regression. They all base their appraisals on the same ideas, but there's a fair amount of subjectivity there, because what one appraiser says this certain component is worth, another appraiser is going to give it a different value, going to assess a different value to that individual component. And that is really what we're talking about here. I mean, think about it. Think about a car, what the cost of a car is. But if you take that car and you take it all apart and you try to put it back together by buying it piece by piece, you'd spend $100,000 putting this car back together by buying it piece by piece. So the contributory value of each of those items is not going to be what the cost is to acquire it. Same thing on a home. you put a patio in. You pour a new patio, put a covered patio, put an outdoor kitchen, put a new roof on, add a room, any of those things. The contributory cost is not, or the contributory value is not going to be what the cost was to put it in, because it's all put together. It's everything that is put together as to what the value is going to be. So a lot of times we think, well, it cost me $4,500 to put this patio in, so it should be worth that to somebody else because they don't have to put it in. They're not going to have to pay the $4,500. That makes sense to you and I. But to an appraiser says, yes, it may have cost that much to put it in, but that's not the contributory value. That doesn't contribute that much in value. And that's where we start getting twisted around sometimes. So what's the answer? When you get ready to list your home for sale, the answer is list your home with a real estate professional who knows how appraisers work and who can price your property, help you price your property in such a way that it will pass appraisal. Either that or hire an appraiser to come out and appraise the property before you ever put it on the market. But even that, you're still wondering whether or not the next appraiser who comes along is going to appraise it exactly the same way. So there is no exact science here. There is maybe more of an art form than it is a science, because it's in the eyes of the beholder. It's not a science where you can just point to this half bath is worth $1,500 because the chart says so. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. So the best we can hope for is that we try to have things available for an appraiser to support our position when we have put a price on a piece of property. Now, if you're getting ready to list your home or you're thinking about listing your home, make sure that you talk to a real estate agent who knows how appraisals work and knows how to help you get that market value, because there is nothing worse than getting 3 or 4 weeks into a transaction and having it all fall apart because you couldn't make appraisal. I'm Donald Leonard with RE/MAX Northwest. I know how appraisers work, and I'd be more than happy to help you price your property as well. Now, I said this is probably going to be a two-parter because next week we're going to talk about tax appraisals, because that time of year is coming up as well. So until next week, enjoy your coffee, enjoy the rest of your week, and take care, y'all.